Okay.
I have trouble differentiating between feelings and thoughts. If I'm feeling something, is that really just a thought?
I have trouble differentiating between feelings and thoughts. If I have a feeling, is it just a thought? Cynthia, remember he has a hearing defect, so you have to speak up.
And that's an accent.
Yeah, no problem.
I apologize for my hearing defect, so what you said is perfectly okay. It's just my hearing is a little off, okay? You can't have a feeling without the thought of the feeling. Or, let's put it this way, another way of looking at it. The feeling can very often come first, but the thought comes immediately following it. That gives a classification to the type of feeling that you're having. Thought is of the mind, where usually the feeling directly is from the self, or can be. So that as we're just sitting here, in the stillness and quietness, look to see if there are any feelings or if there are any thoughts and what they may appear to be. What is it that makes a distinction that a thought or a feeling is of a particular type or nature? Thoughts and feelings usually are just linked together. But what makes the distinction? What is really important is to see whether or not the thought, feeling, let's say that is a hyphenated word, as though it's one word. What is it that says a thought, feeling is of a particular nature, of a particular kind? That's the mind. But your being sees and feels immediately and directly without the mind. We're all seeing and we're all feeling and we're all knowing when this is occurring. But it's not the mind, it is our being. We incorrectly assume that it is the mind that is doing the seeing, doing the feeling, and doing the knowing. Right now, you can see the objects of the people around in the room. You can hear my words. You can feel your body sitting in the chair. That is a direct knowing. This direct knowing is occurring with each one of us, with every one of us. But we incorrectly think and believe that it is a me that is knowing this. The mind thinks it is me knowing this. And that's where trouble enters. The moment that the mind thinks, I know, I do, I think, I feel, the mind cannot think, know, do, and feel without the presence of the pure being that we are. That's a misconception that most people have in incorrectly believing that it's the I itself, the mind, the me, which is the ego, that is the doer of everything that is being done by us, and the receiver of everything that is being known and felt by someone else. The mind registers what is occurring in the moment, but it registers it after the occurrence has already happened. What's so in this moment is what's so, and the mind comes along and tells us what's so. It classifies for us to tell us what's so, and then we usually identify with the mind's classification and take the classification to be the fact. The pure being of the self makes no classifications. It just is. What is, nothing else is. But the mind classifies what is in its own way to be this or that. Where trouble enters in is when we identify with the mind doing the classifying and take the mind to be the self. The mind has no consciousness of its own. It borrows its consciousness from the pure being and the pure intelligence of the I am. And this pure intelligence I am, the pure one that we all are, is infinite and eternal. The mind lives in time and space. The mind is identified with the body, with form, with time and space and objects appearing in the world. And it classifies all of these based upon previous experiences. All of this began when we were children. About the age of 2, when we began the process of reasoning. We began to make the distinction between our foot and our hand when we were an infant, and our body as a baby, as opposed to others. And when we were told to identify with our body as I, instead of calling ourselves baby, or calling ourselves by our given name, and being told to remember who we are by our name. Now, this sense of I that we then begin to identify with, the sense of me as a small child, we begin to accumulate with it all the conditioning of all of the experiences, of all of the history, of all of our stories that pertained to this me, which was our body mind. So the thoughts and feelings that go with this collected consciousness that we consider ourselves to be is where we consider thoughts and feelings to come from. But thoughts and feelings come from pure being. In the moment, a thought rises pure, a feeling rises pure. But the mind enters in rapidly and qualifies that thought and feeling for us. We've turned all of this over to the mind and given, you might say, executive control to the operation of consciousness to our mind. And we've come to identify with this collective consciousness, the mind, the me, the I thought. We've come to identify with it and call it me, call it us, call it the self. It's not the self. The true self is the pure awareness that we all are, and we're all this one pure awareness. Not two. There's not now, there never has been, nor will there ever be a separate individual being. We are not individual beings. That is only an appearance.